So today I'm working on just picking up sticks. I'm going to do a little bit of mowing, and I'm really not planning on doing a bunch of brush hogging. Matter of fact, I'm not going to do any brush hogging until I know the fawns are old enough to get up and get out of the way that are laying out in these fields. Definitely don't want to run over any of those. But anyway, picking up sticks is monotonous work, but if you got a place out in the country and you got surrounded by trees, deciduous trees that lose their leaves and sticks falling off of them all the time and all that, you got to spend a lot of time, or spend some time doing that if you want to keep your place looking nice. And I always want to keep our place looking nice. So anyway, that's what I'm doing. I've got two fires going. I'm burning in the fire pits. I'm burning just a bunch of old lumber, leftover boards. Helped Dad redo a fence over at him and Mom's house. And anyway, so I got some scraps left over from that. I decided just to burn those instead of taking it to the dump. And anyway, that's basically what I'm doing. Going to blow some stuff off the deck and just kind of tidy up and clean up. I hadn't been out a whole lot here in the last few weeks, and today this morning it was about 58 degrees. I think the high today is going to be about 70, 72. So I'm going to get some of this kind of stuff out of the way before it starts getting too doggone hot, and then it'll be miserable, even though you still have to mow and still have to pick up sticks and do all that kind of stuff. So appreciate you tuning in. I'm trying to figure out what people, want to watch. I mean, I'm not going to make stuff up, but I started out just was going to kind of show everyday stuff that I do out here at our place, and then I found out that what people are really interested in the most, at least the folks who have come across the squirrel ranch, are guns and that type of a thing. That feral hog hunt post I posted has had a whole lot of views, and I feel kind of bad because after I did it, I think people probably expect to tune into that and see me whack a big old hog or something like that, and I did not. But I saw today driving in that the hogs have been really going through and rooting up around in the woods all up here around the drive all the way in. So they're around. They're probably laying back in there right now hearing me, and one of these days I'm going to whack one. And I probably won't put the actual whack on here if I'm able to get it on video, but I'll put the aftermath on there and at least share that if that happens. Thank you all for tuning in. Appreciate it. Just everyday stuff. Oh, I'm going to do a post here pretty soon about, I had a great opportunity last week, spent a few days with a real good friend of mine, two friends of mine, and then two new fellas. I'll more on that later, but that was just a great couple of days out on the Kings River, and we fished and hung out at my friend Paul's log cabin out there, and we just had a great time. So I'll post that here in just a little bit, and had another couple of fishing posts I was going to do, and I haven't made those, so I'll try to get those on here. But thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate it. Well, as Jethro Bodine might have said, I commenced to picking up sticks, and I spent probably an hour and a half, no, probably a couple hours picking up sticks. And somebody might look at that and say, why is that guy, man, that's a lot of hard work. But the reason I'm checking around that bush, last thing you want to do out in the country is stick your hand behind a bush like that without checking to see what might be there. Talking about snakes. But anyway, yeah, that's kind of the hard way to do it. But man, I've found that's the only way to really get your country yard cleaned up from all the debris that falls off these trees. Now you could rake it, and sometimes I do that. But just going around picking the sticks up, I've got a lot of areas out there where there's moss growing, which is an indication the soil's not really good for growing grass. But I kind of like the looks of that moss. It covers the ground, looks kind of cool. So anyway, rather than tear it all up with a rake or what have you, I just sometimes just go around picking them up. And I'm thankful that at my age, I can still do that and not hurt my back. But somebody else might be thinking, why didn't he have a bucket, like a 5-gallon bucket? Well, I've done that quite a bit too, but I found I'm probably more efficient like this, believe it or not. And then I just run them over there I've got, as I mentioned, those two fire pits going, and just throw them in there, and that's it. But I tell you what, as I'm doing that, I guess you call gotten used to, or maybe trained myself. I got one thing on my mind when I'm picking sticks up, and that's snakes. And I know I talk a lot about snakes. So I'm not paranoid about it, or maybe I am. But you just want to be aware that they're there. And anyway, that I wanted to show you that holster. That's the best holster I found for carrying around, doing the kind of stuff that I do out there. If you want to have a pistol with you, but that's a Governor Smith & Wesson Governor 6-shot revolver. I've got it loaded with 410, 2.5 inch long 410 shells. And a little bit later on this video, you'll see why I carry that. But that gun also shoots 45 long Colt and 45 auto, as you'll see there on the barrel. 45 ACP, if you're not a gunner, that stands for automatic Colt pistol, but 45 auto. There's little rings that come with it, so you can put those in there. But anyway, it's a really nice firearm for my use, at least, and a little bit heavy to carry around, but that's why I like that holster that clips around my thigh and then under my belt. And I've carried so many different guns over the years out there, but a lot better than carrying a shotgun around. But that was a heck of a fire I had over there in the fire pit in between the cabin and the barn, and man, I just like smelling the smoke, and just it kind of adds to the atmosphere when you got a campfire going, and serve the purpose of burning up all those sticks I was picking up. So kind of killed two birds with one stone there, if you will. That fire pit, I had that made, that ring, 20 some odd years ago, and buried that down in the ground, and it's still doing its job. That old rake belonged to Uncle Pat and Aunt Catherine. It's probably 50, 60 years old, and I use it sparingly because I don't want to mess it up, but because I think every time I use it, as I do the other tools that came from our family. But you can see that branch up there's probably killed that. Unfortunately, that we've had a lot of big fires in that fire pit, but I guess it's been a while since we've had one that tall, a fire that went up that tall, and so if that branch dies, I'll just get up there and cut that off. No big deal. That big white oak's not short on branches. Nothing real exciting about picking up sticks, but I will say that after spending my working years in a white-collar job in a white-collar world, I still enjoy doing this kind of mundane work, and for a number of reasons. For one, you can immediately see your progress. You can see what you've accomplished. I mean, just clearing those dead sticks, that debris and stuff. You turn around, you look at it, and it's like, man, that looks a lot nicer than it did, a few minutes earlier. And then just having the fires going and throwing sticks on a fire sounds kind of silly. If you haven't done it in a while, you might try it. This is like snake. I mean, this is made for snakes. This kind of stuff, in these oak hickory woods, where you've got debris down on the ground around the base of these trees. Great place for these darn copperheads and timber rattlers. And I actually I was prepared to see any kind of size snake while I was picking these sticks up and all that. And constantly on my mind, if I'm reaching out and picking a stick up, a limb or whatever, dead limb off the floor of the woods there, man, I'm thinking in my mind real quick, I want to make sure it's a snake. So I'm thinking, is that a snake? Is that a stick? And again, I think I've trained myself to kind of be on the lookout for these darn things. And unfortunately, I see a whole lot more venomous snakes than I do non-venomous. I very rarely, at least in our place there in Berry County, I don't very often see non-venomous snakes, but I see a lot of rattlesnakes and a lot of copperheads, and I'm 2 for 2 this year. So far, I had an encounter with a copperhead last week, and another one here today. But anyway, that's what I did. Actually, after I got done picking up sticks, I did a little mowing, and I'm going to mow a lot less this year. I'm not going to mow those fields down. I'm going to let them go, at least for the year. But I had a stack of rounds over there by that tree. I just threw the last 2 of them on that fire, but sure enough, at the bottom of it, there was a nest where either mice or chipmunks, probably mice, I rarely see chipmunks, had made a nest down there. And again, you have mice, you're going to have snakes. So I've just gotten where I pretty much don't keep anything stacked up there around the cabin or too close to the barn. Those limbs, I cut those off just this last fall, and they aren't dried out yet, so that's why I'm sticking them on top there. Anything will burn if it gets hot enough. but those were still fairly green. So I put them on top so they'd dry out. Eventually, later in the day here, I just threw them on there and they burned up as well. So that all turned to ash. But tractor sure comes in handy if you're a weekend farmer, weekend rancher out there, and you don't have a tractor. If you've got the if you got the means to get one or to borrow one every now and then or rent one or whatever, man, you can do things with a tractor you can't do otherwise. Those are 3 standing dead white oaks that I need to cut down and turn into firewood. I hate that those died, but they sure enough did. That left that fire pit. That was mostly pine, dimensional lumber, and it's interesting. It just made a really interesting coal bed. That sounds kind of ridiculous, probably, but compared to hardwood coal beds, I don't know. It was just kind of interesting the way it stood up like that, and the way it looked. But here's why I was blowing the debris and stuff away a little bit that was around the cabin, and you can see that pygmy rattler crawling around there, getting ready to go onto the deck. And he's about a foot long, or I should say he was about a foot long. And I don't enjoy killing stuff. I don't even enjoy killing snakes, but when you have something that can potentially kill you or one of your grandkids, or at least maybe make you wish you were dead, you got to deal with it. And so I could have just stepped on him, but it's a lot more efficient to do it the way I just did. Hey, appreciate you watching. Thanks for tuning in. Sticks and snakes have to be dealt with.
Not like that. No. Respectfully, just wanted you to know everywhere we go, you're a campfire memory.